What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at March 4th Pod. The link tree with all of my stuff is in the podcast description for this episode. So that means if you made it here, then you found me somehow. And I truly appreciate each and every one of yous taking the time to check out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. How is everybody doing out there? I hope that life finds you well as you are listening to this show. We are about a month and a half into 2026, so I hope you guys are sticking to your goals and the things that you want to change in your life going into the year. I know it's been a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but like I say at the end of every show, keep the faith, be kind to one another, and be kind to yourselves. There's still a lot of awesome people in the world. There's still a lot of awesome music, a lot of awesome art, all the things that help keep us moving and grooving and get away from the mundane and the awful. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, be good to each other. And life is good on my end over here. I want to thank everybody once again for checking out the show. If this week's guest brought you here, thank you so much. For all you first time listeners, over 200 episodes now, and I couldn't have done it without all my close family and friends that have been supporting me and cheering me on along the way and along this journey with March 4th and sharing these conversations of perseverance and moving forward and inspiration. And, whether it's through mental health issues or whether it's through grief, changes that you want to make in your life. And because I love music, I have a lot of musical guests on this show. So hopefully, I'm putting you on to some artists that maybe you weren't aware of previously. But yeah, recently eclipsed 200 shows of March 4th, and again, that's just a testament to the community of people that I've built through the show, but also the community that has supported me so much throughout the years, man. So that would be one piece of advice I'll give y'all at the beginning of this too, is just find your tribe, vibe with your tribe. So many of us spend time either in the past or in the future, worried or anxious about what did happen or what might happen, worrying about what other people think. And the right people are always going to, set you straight and bring the best out of you. So never forget that, man. So vibe with your tribe and find your tribe in 2026. And speaking of finding your tribe and vibing with your tribe, I'm just going to get right into this week's episode. One thing that I've tried to make more of a goal is social media presence for the podcast over the last couple of years. I'm kind of an old man in a younger man's body. I've been going on 88 since I was a little guy. I think I even say it in this conversation with this week's guest. So, social media has been it's kind of new to me. I've been on Instagram less than 6 years. I've been on TikTok only about 2 years. But one of the great things about social media is the ability to connect with people in a positive way that maybe you wouldn't have been able to connect with sooner if it were 10, 15, 20, certainly 30 years ago. And especially when it comes to music, a lot of it back in the day when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, if you didn't see somebody on MTV or you didn't hear them on the radio, you had to be there live to see it. But that was how you found out about artists back in the day. It was either through word of mouth, your buddies, TV, or radio. That was pretty much it. And with social media, you really can get put on to new music a lot faster. And one of the positive things about the streaming apps is the algorithms, in a good way, can kind of put you on to artists that are in your wheelhouse, based on your taste and what you're listening to. And so your boy, the old man here, I got on TikTok a couple of years ago because I was like, I've built a little bit of an audience on Instagram, and I want to see if I can start to build that over there. And lo and behold, I've stumbled across a lot of great artists and a lot of great people. And this week's guest is one of those artists. And it's always cool too when I can put on for somebody from the Midwest. And I really love their sound. This band is Forge the Sun. They hail from Detroit Rock City, which is only about an hour from where I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. They're an alternative, progressive rock band. They've been around since 2020. Their influences range from everybody from Tool, Rush, Evanescence, Killswitch Engage, one of my all-time faves, In Flames, Deftones, another one of my all-time faves, Smashing Pumpkins, Queens of the Stone Age, among others. Their album Heart of the Sunrise came out in 2023. They also did a live album at Zeros and Ones Studios, which they released in 2024. They did an awesome Tool cover of Stinkfist on that one. Their latest single is Toadhoney, which just came out on January 16th of this year, in addition to numerous other singles that they've done. And what I love about these guys is that diversity of their influences. You hear that in their sound, and we talk about it on this podcast. And it's really cool, man. These guys play a lot of live gigs. They've got one coming up on March 7th, Mosh for Mutts, which we talk about a little bit on this one, I believe, as well, which is going to be a cool one at Sanctuary Detroit, where they are going to be raising resources and funds to help local dog rescues. So, these guys are about the music, they're about the people, they're about the animals. And on this one, you hear more about Forge the Sun. So without further ado, I'm going to shut my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with Tristan, Barret, Isaac, and Allie of Forge the Sun. Here it is. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join the pod. Like I was saying at the jump, really appreciate the time. And even though social media can be a bit of a cesspool out there, it also is awesome to be able to connect with awesome bands like yourselves, and get put onto some dope music that maybe 20, 30 years ago would have taken a lot longer to make happen. So really appreciate you guys joining me, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, for people who aren't familiar with Forge the Sun, you guys are in the Detroit area, but since we got the whole family on here, why don't you guys let them know your name and what you play in the band, and then that way when you're talking, they know who's speaking.
All right. My name's Tristan, and I play guitar in the band Forge the Sun.
I'm Barret. I play bass.
I'm Isaac, and I play drums.
And this is Allie, and I'm the vocalist.
Well, thanks again, y'all. I really appreciate it. And for you guys, I think what was cool, going back and listening to your catalog, getting ready for this, and your album Heart of the Sunrise. Sick artwork on that, by the way. Definitely want to nerd out about that. But there's a lot of diversity in y'all's sound, man. And then even that live cover you guys did of Tool's Stinkfist, which was sick. The musicianship is awesome. Allie, your vocals are great. Usually where I like to start with people is kind of what got them into music, or if there was like a rabbit hole moment for each one of y'all that still sticks out in terms of like, this is something that I gotta like really pursue. It's not just a commodity or like background noise, but like I really feel like this is something that I just got to keep going with. Do you guys remember that moment, or like your earliest musical memory?
Mine was I started with piano, and like my oldest brother kind of just played a lot of different instruments, like a one-man band thing. So he always wanted me to play something. So yeah, I started with piano, and then he tried to get me onto guitar, which didn't work. And then I ended up getting his drum kit, and I just taught myself because he had moved out of our parents at that time. And yeah, I just taught myself, and then ended up finding some friends to jam with, and that was kind of the start of how I started playing music.
I think like when I really understood how much I liked music, like on the way, like when I was in the car with my dad, he'd always be playing music really loud. Um, and I think when I got an iPod, I think I was probably like 7 or 8 or something. They just gave it to me for when I was at my brother's judo practices. I would be listening to music on like the side, just sitting down. And there was an album that I had asked my dad about. It was a Queens of the Stone Age album. And I was listening to it, and then I kind of just realized like, oh man, they have other stuff too. Like when I had opened it on my iPod, I was like, oh my God, they don't make just this album. Like there's a whole like there's like 5 albums on here. Um, and I don't know. That's just kind of when I was reached consciousness about music, I feel like is that moment.
Yeah, I guess for me, well, my whole family is like super musical, and everybody in my family has been super into like theater and choir. So I always loved music, but I always felt like singing was just kind of normal because everybody in my family can sing. And I had a lot of anxiety growing up, so I didn't think I could really do anything with it until my early 20s. I started going to karaoke bars with my friends, and they're like strangers would be like, "What the hell are you doing with your life, and why is it not this?" Um, so that's when I really started kind of taking singing seriously and getting like vocal lessons and everything like that. And that's kind of where it all started for me in terms of like being in a band.
I always had music in the house growing up. My parents would always play records and CDs, and grew up listening to bands like Tom Petty and the Cars and Aerosmith. Um, and yeah, it was just kind of there was always that in the house since really I can remember. My mom was a big part of that. My dad too, but she definitely had the big record collection, and so I was always around music. And then I remember when I first got super into a band. Um, I got into Kiss in like fourth grade, and that I think got me hooked on just loving music, like on a really, really personal level. I had a band that I could like identify with. That was like my band. And then what made me want to play guitar was I saw the movie Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash biopic, and I immediately wanted to take guitar lessons. So, and then from there, it was just kind of a long journey, long, awesome, fruitful journey. So, and here we are. So,
I appreciate y'all sharing that, man. Yeah, like before I really knew who y'all were, and I found you on TikTok just through these mysterious algorithms, and just being a metalhead and a rock and roll fan, it brought me to you guys. And going back, like I said, and listening to your catalog, it was a lot of fun, and especially listening to the album Heart of the Sunrise front to back. Like y'all's musicianship is awesome, and Allie's voice is so great. But I thought what was cool on there was like you have a track like Genesis, which is so different from like Burn the Witch. Cheers is like really bluesy, and I feel like that's one like live that probably goes over really well. And then I hope I'm saying this right. It looks like it could be an acronym like WIGFE, like that one. Lyrically, I feel like is really kind of appropriate to a lot of stuff that's going on in the world right now. But you guys jam on that. The title track, you had the interlude towards the end before Fight or Flight. Prelude was just an awesome way to open it up. Like it sounds like you guys have been playing together for like 15 years, man. So how did, I guess before we get into the album itself, like how did you guys come together? Because from what I looked up, it was like 2020. So was it like pre-COVID? How did you guys come together? Because it sounds like listening to the record, if I think if people didn't know that this has been like maybe a 6 year or so journey that you guys have been playing together for like 20 years, man.
Yeah, I so it all started. uh so actually it kind of follows up to me seeking vocal lessons. So when I started thinking seriously about wanting to do something in music, obviously like I wanted a little bit of vocal training to make sure that I was doing it correctly so I could sustain it. So I took vocal lessons at Grosse Pointe Music Academy, and that's where Tristan teaches guitar. And my vocal teacher um, got me linked up with him because she had told me that he was looking for some people to jam with. And then we started jamming together, and we started actually doing like acoustic duo cover like shows at bars and restaurants. And then at some point, started thinking about doing original music and getting a full band together. And that's where Barret kind of came into it. And then Isaac, you joined in 2023, right?
Yeah, I think it was 23. I don't remember the exact year. It was like the beginning of like 2023, I think. But yeah, we had I'm in another or I'm in another band, and we played a few shows together, Forge the Sun and my old other band. And they ended up getting into a drummer limbo at some point. So they were cycling between a few drummers, and then I ended up playing a few shows with them. And I was like, hey, these guys are really cool. And I love the way they work together and the music they make. So then I started thinking if I should join them. And then I think they asked me if I wanted to join. And I said, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, you guys sound great, man. Heart of the Sunrise, again, is a great front to back listen for people checking out the podcast. But what was it like putting together the track listing for that one? Because again, like you come out the gate with Prelude, it's kind of like an intro and goes right into Genesis. But then I feel like WIGFE, it's got some more like metallic elements on there. Cheers, I felt like was kind of like bluesy. Um, and then you end with Fight or Flight. Like, was it hard coming up with a track listing? Like, how many times after you guys had like an album's worth of material did you kind of cycle through sort of the front to back listen? Because I'm still one of those nerds that like if somebody has a new record coming out, like I like to start at the beginning and go to the end and see if it's like sequenced or like the taking it in is like a full piece of art. And I think that the way that you guys structured this was really well. I think it really showed off like the different influences and like your skill sets on your instruments and Allie's voice. So did that take some time to put that together front to back?
I want to say I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I want to say we modeled it after how we performed, like how we would perform the music, but it also might have gone the other way. Like because I know like for a while we would open with Prelude and we'd run the music very similar to the order of the album during our live sets. But I don't remember it being that difficult in terms of like the order. It was it wasn't one person figuring everything out, so we're very collaborative when it comes to like a lot of things. So I remember us talking about it, but I think I don't know, I think it was pretty easy. We knew that like okay, having a big. I remember talking about Prelude. Okay, we're gonna have a big opening to the album, and it's gonna immerse the listener. And that one is like meant to go into Genesis, so they're gonna be back to back. And then okay, what's the strong follow up to that one? I feel like we spent more time talking about which songs were going to be singles than we did the order of the album. I think the order of the album came pretty easy. I think it was more like, all right, which ones are like, which songs make good, catchy single drops. But I don't know, Allie, do you recall that being difficult, or do you recall that process much?
I don't recall it being super difficult because I agree. Like, I think the music and the way that we'd play it live definitely influenced the order of the songs. The album itself, like, I guess lyrically really isn't like a concept album. So I think like it really was just the vibe of the songs, though. I will say the one thing that's kind of cool about the album is that lyrically, like Genesis kind of has these like beginning of time. Like I use a lot of like beginning of time like metaphors to kind of bring the story together. And Fight or Flight is almost kind of like a finite story where it's like the end of like a chapter or the it feels like finished. So I think it really came down to just like the way that we perform the songs and also like the vibes of the songs and how the start feels like really epic as like the beginning of the story and finishing off with Fight or Flight being like the end of the story.
I appreciate y'all sharing that. Yeah, it turned out really, really great, man. And the artwork is really sick too.
Thank you.
How did you guys come up with that, or who did the artwork? Because it's very like hearing you say that now, Allie. Yeah, it's got kind of like a real sort of like almost like fantasy type vibe to it. Um, like I mean, I'm a child of like the '90s. Like I was born in '88, but just growing up as like a '90s kid, and like obviously like I don't know, it kind of elicits things like for me visually of like the labyrinth or like never ending story, like these like legend like fantasy type stuff. I don't know. That's just like the vibe that I get. So I
Totally.
don't yeah, I don't know if you guys are into that stuff or like, Lord of the Rings, all that kind of like those epic kind of journey type movies. But who did the artwork for this? Because it's pretty sick.
Um, let's see. I'm not kidding. His Instagram name is guy who draws a lot. Um,
His name's
pretty
Tyrone.
Tyrone. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome. He's got a whole video on Instagram where he recorded himself for hours doing it, and you can see him doing the penciling of like the design, and it's sped up, and it's really cool. If you get a chance to check the video out, you see it all come together. But yeah, he did a great job. And we found him. It's interesting. You're bringing up the art. That's probably, I would say that was probably the next thing that probably took more time too in terms of pre-production stuff. It's like, all right, what's our budget? What are we going for? We want to love the art because we put so much energy into the album, into writing it. And we'd go on Instagram and we'd look for artists that we liked. And it's really tricky when you really like the art, but you're like, does this really match the music? So we were fortunate to find him. And yeah, then we just shot him a message and gave us a good deal on the pieces. He did the album art and he also did the art for the singles. He did Medicine, Burn the Witch, and Medicine, Burn the Witch, Witchcraft. Was there
Woodford.
Wig? Oh yeah, Wigfee. Yeah, then he did Wigfee too. So
Oh, it's okay. It's Wigfee. I was saying I was like spelling it out like Wigfe. I'm like
you
Well,
can
it is
spell it
it
that
is
way
it
too.
is an acronym, but
Yeah.
but we just say it fully.
well, I hope you guys have like posters of this like if like just for yourselves, dudes, because yeah, that would be like a sick canvas, man. Like all of the single art, but even that album art. I mean, it looks like it could be like the cover of like a fantasy novel or like a dope fantasy movie, and it's a dope album. And then the live at Zeros and Ones Studios was sick too. And again, shout out to that Stinkfist cover. Um, Tool is obviously not an easy band to cover, and you guys, I think, did an incredible job. Is that kind of I hear like the melding of the different influences with like rock and metal. And Allie, you guys have even been posting stuff on TikTok. I feel like over the last like year or so that you guys have come on my radar, like doing the heavy scream vocals in addition to the melodies too. Like for you guys, is Tool kind of like a shared influence? Was that sort of the choice to do that one live? Is that kind of one amongst sort of the genre melding that all you guys kind of dig?
I
For
would
sure,
definitely
yeah.
say so. Before we started like really seriously going into like the original music, we actually played a lot of cover gigs like as a four piece, like after like we built the band together, like after the duo stuff, we did a lot of cover shows and we did do quite a bit of Tool covers for those shows. So that was definitely like I think a shared influence. And then there was one single that we released before Heart of the Sunrise called Nature that is very like Tool influence. So if you haven't heard that one, check that one out. But yeah, we've been playing Tool for a long time.
Do you guys any like so since we're talking about Tool, if you had to put like three of their songs in a time capsule for people on Mars like 1,000 years from now, what would those Tool songs be? And I know that's probably hard. I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm just curious because they've got so many in their catalog.
Um, well, I think at the so like Tool, I think like in the early stages of our band too. Like that's I'm a big album lover. I love albums, and we first the early genesis of the band. I was listening to a lot of Tool. I was listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin, and I think that was like the common denominator between. I know the three of us at the time we had a different drummer, and Isaac had mentioned we were in drummer limbo. So I think that's looking back on it, that's probably why we gravitated towards them even more because it was like, as much as we have in common too, I think we all like different genres of music too. So that was a cool meeting point in terms of like top three song. I mean, I think you could. I mean, shit, like John B's pretty sick. Bi Curious. I like Third Eye. That's probably my favorite Tool song. It's really weird. That's off Enema. So those three you can't really go wrong with, man. Um Third Eye is just that like what is like a 13-minute epic just jamathon. So those would probably be my three because I'm a big fan of the 10,000 Days album and Enema. Those are my two favorite. Gotten more into Undertow recently, but those are still my favorite albums, and I'd probably go with those three songs.
I'm trying to look right now. I know I'm a huge fan of Rosetta Stone. I think that's probably my favorite Tool song. That's off of 10,000 Days as well. That's probably my favorite album. Um, I love, let's see, uh, Parabola and Parable. Those two go together really well. I guess those would technically be three songs because it's like the intro and then the actual song itself.
I'm probably gonna go with 46 and 2, Vicarious and Right and 2. Also a huge fan of the 10,000 Days album.
Album's so good, dude.
So good.
Yeah, um I think it's the best one in my opinion. I love that album. I listened to that album for like 3 months straight. Like that was soundtrack of my summer, I think, one year. But they've got so much good stuff. It's hard to choose.
Yeah, it's probably.
I mean, Isaac, are you?
Yeah.
I was because I wanted to clarify about that Tool thing because, like, I don't know how big of a Tool fan you. I don't know how big of a Tool you are, Isaac. I don't know how big of a Tool fan you are, Isaac. Because you joined later.
Yeah, so they actually kind of got me into Tool more so than if I didn't join. They heavily influenced my prog style and like learning of prog music. And it's like I really only listened to like Dream Theater before, like in terms of prog. And but to kind of answer that song with Tool, I'd probably say Vicarious and Sober. And then I guess Stinkfist since we covered that one, but yeah, I don't know much.
What's your favorite Dream Theater song?
Ooh, maybe Octavarium.
Oh my!
Yeah, classic, just 24-minute song.
Also, I do think it's funny that, you asked all of us and like only one of us said Stinkfist is like our favorite one because like that's the only Tool song that we still play together. Um, and I think we kind of just realized that the logistics of playing like an 8 minute long, like really technical song on stage, like just doesn't really work that well when you're not just playing in a bar. Um, so yeah, I think we kind of started setting that to the side a little bit. We used to play Vicarious though, but yeah,
Really hard to fit an 8-minute song into a 30-minute set.
yeah.
Yeah, just like you got like more than a quarter, almost a third of the set is just one song. But yeah, sorry, I know I kind of put you guys on the spot there, but I could hear like the proggy elements in your music too. So I'm like, I'm wondering like that being the cover that you guys did on that album, if that was one that was kind of a shared love of the band. And yeah, shout out to Dream Theater too. One of my buddies from high school, Tony, put me on them. Because Metallica, like a lot of bands, was like a gateway heavy band, will always be one of my favorite bands, still love them to this day. And I remember him telling me, he's like, dude, they're kind of like a combination of Metallica and Rush. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what the first couple of records he told me to check out. But Train of Thought I really, really loved. That one was sick. Never I still haven't had a chance. It's I'm sheepish to admit that I haven't had a chance to see them live yet. So the next time they come through Nashville, I gotta check them out. But yeah, Dream Theater's sick. But yeah, I remember him telling me that those were the two bands he used to kind of like compare them to. He's like, if Metallica and Rush like joined up like together, that's kind of what it sounds like. Because I hadn't really been into like prog stuff before. I guess the closest I got to it, and it wasn't really like metal, would be like, maybe like Yes, you
Oh yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh
um,
yeah.
came from like a classic rock. Dad was really into like Tom Petty and Eric Clapton and
Nice.
all that, and then mom was really into like the new wave 80s stuff and like Talking Heads and Duran Duran, Sting, The Police, like all of that. Like the closest my parents got to like my wheelhouse was my dad had the Alice in Chains Unplugged album, which to me is the
Oh,
best.
it's a great album. That is their best. I mean, that one, yeah, that one, and I think Black Gives Way to Blue is. People will say it's not. I think that's my favorite album by them. But yeah, that's those two are great, dude.
Yeah, people
Unplugged.
they sleep on the Black Gives Way to Blue record, man. That is
Dude.
a incredible album. Great front to back listen.
Oh,
Um,
a
and
new beginning.
yeah, Jerry Cantrell. I got a chance to see pre-apocalypse, which is what I affectionately call COVID, before the world turned upside down. Korn and Alice in Chains did a co-headlining tour in like 2019, and Korn was on the Nothing cycle, and Alice in Chains, I think that was Rainier Fog, and seeing that was I had seen Korn before, but that was the first time I had seen them with Head back in the band, and I'm pretty sure they opened with Here to Stay, which is one of my favorite riffs of any band ever. That's just like one of my favorite riffs of all time. And it was sick. But getting the chance to see Alice in Chains live was just so awesome because that was one of the formative bands from my childhood, and it's like one of those things where like when I got a chance to see BB King. I'm sorry, I'm like dropping names all over this podcast now. I
Dude,
just
that's epic.
I don't even mean to, but when I saw BB King, it was like seeing somebody do what they were born to do. You know what I mean? And like seeing Alice in Chains, like those guys, like that collective of musicians, like R.I.P. Lane, obviously, but William
Yeah.
Duvall is amazing. He's
Oh, he's
awesome.
awesome, dude.
And
I actually love his vocals. I think he's great. So
yeah, he's sick, and he actually produced a record from this band Monstro. If you guys haven't checked that out,
oh, okay.
it was like a one-off record, but it's like psychedelic,
Sweet.
kind of heavy rock. Is the only way I can to describe it. But yeah, seeing Jerry Cantrell play guitar too is one of those moments too. Is like, oh yeah, that dude was like born to do that. It was awesome. So yeah, shout out to Dream Theater and Alice in Chains and Tool, and yeah, man, I could go down the rabbit hole. But and shout out to you guys, man. The latest single, Toadhoney, as we're doing this, just came out. That's a fun one as well. Also fun artwork on that one. With
A
the
little
old
bit different, a little bit different artwork for sure.
Yeah, that one's more cartoonish, which I love too, man. That one's a fun one, but and that's coming on the heels of in 2025 you guys did Decay came out. Speedball, I remember seeing the reels and the shorts on TikTok for that one. That's a heavy gnarly one as well. What can you tell me and the listeners going into 2026 without spilling the tea obviously on anything that you guys don't want to unleash yet, but what's kind of the game plan for 2026? I know as we're doing this one, there's some shows coming up, but are there plans to do another record, another EP?
Yeah, let's see. I think we all talked about putting out an EP because the newer stuff is a lot different than the album. I think we're leaning a lot more kind of in the alternative direction, but I kind of look at it as like we all love so many different styles of music, and we can, as long as it's, as long as we do it our way and it's not contrived, I think we can do any style of music that we make work for us. So right now we're kind of in this, I don't know, I guess you would describe it as a more alternative, metal, shoegazy. To me, it's got this more like raw kind of vibe where we're at as a band. So I think we're going to continue going that direction, but who knows? Maybe we'll put out a country album. I don't know. Like, it depends what we're feeling, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting to go back and listen to Heart of the Sunrise compared to the stuff that I had seen on TikTok from y'all, where it was kind of initially heavier, kind of more alternative, and then another fun one I want to give a shout out to y'all too is the Angels We Have Heard on High cover. Oh my gosh, like I've never heard like, I mean, obviously there's like heavier, Christmassy stuff out there, but job well done on that one, dudes. Like that was sick, man. And the guitar tone on that one is really dope as well. But yeah, there's not even a question in there other than just like kudos, because I wanted to make sure I gave you guys a shout out on that one too. That was really fun to listen to. How did you guys come up with choosing that one as like the Christmas song to choose?
So what happened was we actually played a show. There's this really like popular show that happens every year at the Crowfoot. It's called the Creepy Cheapy. And then one year we ended up playing it, and with the Creepy Cheapy, basically what it is local bands will dress up as like well-known acts and cover a whole set of their music. So one year we were chosen to do Sleep Token, and in that particular year they had asked us to include I guess a Christmas cover in the style of that band. So the whole writing concept for that song like started as it being a Christmas cover of Angels We Had Heard on High in the style of Sleep Token. And then after we did it, we were like, that sounds pretty cool. Then we started like really looking into it after we kind of did the live version and kind of making it more our own, and then recording it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was really unique, man. Like I mean, obviously there's artists out there like, like Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Like I remember the first time my dad brought home that CD. I'd never heard Christmas music like that before when I was like 10, 11 years old and like 98, 99. I'm like, yo, this is sick. But so yeah, it was cool. It was cool to hear Angels We Have Heard on High and like kind of like a heavier realm. And I think it's cool that you guys can kind of like be genreless, man. Like it's got to be fun making music together, and being able to go to these different places. And you were just talking about Tristan, like alternative shoegazy. I feel like all that stuff is huge now. Like even a band like Deftones. I was just talking to somebody about this recently, and they're one of my favorite bands. Like I feel like they're as big as they've ever been, and they obviously bring in like that a lot of the sort of the shoegazy ethereal type vibes. Like especially I feel like over their last few albums, and their latest record, Private Music, was one of my favorite releases of 2025. But yeah, I think for what you guys do, man, like heavy music's in a really awesome place right now. I feel like alternative pop punk, I feel like over the last 5, 6 years has had a huge resurgence. Like, what's it been like for you guys just, being in Detroit with the music history that Detroit has and being a band that blend genres the way that you guys do? What's it been like as far as like the local shows?
Um, I think that directly impacts how I feel like as a writer when it comes to music and what I'm into. You know, there's so much different styles of music happening in Detroit. There's like garage rock. There's a ton of hardcore in mid Michigan and in Detroit, in the Metro Detroit area. There's a lot of metal. There's jazz and blues bands. So I'll spend some time in Lansing sometimes, and there's like blues bands there, and then like in Detroit, there's more like, I think there's more of like a jazz scene. You've got these like like the Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe, and then you've got oh god, what's the place downtown? I'm blanking out on the name, but yeah, there's just so many different styles of just music in the scene, and I think that I know that definitely influences me for sure. If I go see a band and there's only like 5 people there and it's just like a hole in the wall kind of like venue, but the band kicks ass, like that's not a uncommon occurrence. Sometimes I'll just go to a venue not knowing who's playing, and I'll catch a band, and oh my gosh, like then I'll like want to write something like them, or I'll like feel inspired. So it's a great city to be around that kind of environment. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, Detroit, like we were talking about before we officially hit record, man. Like there's a lot of awesome venues there, like in and around the Detroit area. And even up in Flint is the Machine Shop, right? It's been around forever and has had like Seven Dust is one of my favorite bands. I know they play there pretty much anytime they come through the Michigan area if they're not playing in like Detroit proper. But yeah, I gotta imagine that's gotta be fun too with you guys being able to genre meld like in terms of playing to different audiences. Are there any
Yeah,
shows over the years with Forge the Sun that kind of stick out, or moments in this journey with you guys as a band coming together where you're like, yeah, man, we're really onto something here?
I think one of my favorite shows that we played, that stuck out to me was we opened up for Winger. That was really cool. We played at what's the name of that venue, guys?
The District
District
40.
142.
Yeah, District
142.
142.
Yeah,
That's
we
what it
played
was.
there. That was really cool. And that we played a lot of stuff off the first album. But then, we've played with death metal bands. We've been like the proggy rock band on the death metal bill. You know, and that's when we can whip out some of our heavier stuff. So, um, the Winger show sticks out to me because that was just really fun, and we had a lot of people coming up to us after the show and buying merch and talking to us, and there was a lot of connections I feel like made just from on a personal level that night. Just people coming up saying nice stuff, and um, but I think just the experience of playing all different kinds of shows, genre wise, it's all been pretty memorable.
I
Yeah,
think
I
for
don't
me,
Yeah.
know.
I there's not like one specific show, but anytime that we're in a place and there's kind of a lot of people there, but they're not really like standing close to the stage or anything. They're all just like kind of hanging out. Whenever we're able to kind of musically convince them to get closer to the stage, I think is pretty cool for me. Yeah, just anytime we can get people into our music that don't seem to be that, like they're not really there for that. Like if we could convince them to come look at our stuff, that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think it's really cool that we get invited on a lot of different types of shows. Like we can open up for Winger, we can play like a show like Arts Beats and Eats, which is like a huge art, food, and music festival that happens in Royal Oak. That's pretty much like family friendly. Or we can play like a hardcore show, or a metal festival where we'll actually be on one, and Gojira and Ginger just happen to be like on the same bill. So we get to play with a lot of different types of bands. And I think no matter where we play, like we do get a lot of appreciation from not only like people who are listening to us, but other musicians, which is always really nice, a nice feeling. But it's also like really, really cool when like we've had shows like one, for example, there was a show in January and it was like freezing cold. Like it was like earlier this month. It was like freezing cold. We were the last band on the bill, which is usually like a death sentence for like local shows to be like the last band on the bill. The bill was running 20 minutes late, so we weren't on until like 11 o'clock at night. Um, and generally, like all odds were against us to not play to anybody in the room. And people stuck around for us. And like, that's a really good feeling to have a full room of people waiting to hear you play at like 11 o'clock at night at a local show. So I am definitely super fortunate that we get those opportunities, and it just seems to just keep getting better and better and growing, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree with all that too. Seeing all the people come up to us afterwards and drawing in crowds. I remember we played last time we played at the old Miami, just kind of like a small college town bar. The crowd seemed to. I don't think I could see like the crowd, but from my perspective, it seemed like the crowd got bigger like when we went on, and people just came up afterwards talking to us. There was another show we recently played, and this one dude came out, drove like a half hour out to just listen to live music for his first time, and me and another buddy ended up talking with him for the whole night, and just having like connections like that, like someone coming out and really enjoying the live music they're hearing, and even if they don't come specifically for you, then they get to hear you, and then they end up really liking our music, and it's just good seeing other people enjoy what we do and have a good time with it.
Hell yeah, man, especially if it was somebody's first show. Like I feel like you always remember your first concert, you know what I mean? And that's awesome to hear. I appreciate y'all sharing those experiences because yeah, everybody starts somewhere, man. Like I still remember shows where in Toledo, like, and this is probably like 13 years ago now, but I remember going to see Seven Dust. On that tour, they took out Nothing More, and Nothing More was opening for them. That was when that song Ballast had come out and it started picking up like radio play. And I think Seven Dust was one of the first bands, or it maybe was like the first like national, big touring band that had taken them out. And now they are kind of where they are, a decade later. And I remember seeing like Death Punch open for Disturbed at this place in called Bogarts in Cincinnati, Ohio, back in like 2008. So yeah, everybody starts somewhere, man. And I know Van Halen used to play cover shows back in the day. I mentioned Frankie's to you guys in Toledo, like the White Stripes used to play there before they broke. So yeah, so I think it's cool with what you guys do, and the kind of being boundless with like genres, where you get a chance to play these different shows to different audiences and bring people in, and yeah, everybody starts somewhere, man. Well, before we wrap it up, and thanks again, Barret and Allie and Tristan and Isaac for taking the time, especially on a Friday night. I won't keep you too much longer. I'll get you out of here on this. I mean, with the theme of the show being perseverance and moving forward with March 4th. Um, Anything, and obviously this podcast is for entertainment purposes. I'm not a doctor, but at the same time, as somebody who struggled with anxiety in my life, part of the reason I love having these conversations is just letting people know they're not alone out there. So with it kind of being the beginning of a new year in 2026, is there anything, obviously I'm sure beyond music, but things that help you guys get through like the darker days that you might feel like be somewhat universal or helpful for somebody out there who might be struggling right now with whatever it is?
Does that have to be music, or can it just be like a mentality?
Oh, it can be, yeah, it could be anything that helps get you through, man. Doesn't just have to be music. No.
Well, there's a lot of facets to mental health, so I don't think I could say one thing that would just encompass it all. But I think it's easy, especially with just, I don't know, like just the growing nature of like the world, like just how things are it just seems like things just get harder and harder, when you look at them in a certain perspective. It's really easy to focus on the negative. But I think it's important to appreciate everything that you have in life. For one, I think when we get overwhelmed and we focus so much on the negative, I think it is disingenuous to all the positive things and all the great people in our life. And it's just important to remind ourselves, like, yeah, this is hard, but there's someone with a harder situation going on. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm having a hard time at work, but at least you get to work. Oh, I'm having a hard time, with, I don't know, I don't want to go work out. Well, at least you have the ability to get up and go work out, right? There's like there's a blessing that comes with, I think, some of the challenges in life. It's important to keep things in perspective. And there's like a Chinese proverb that I read. It was, I used to be upset about not having any shoes until I met a man with no feet, And I think it's just important to have that kind of mentality, because if you don't, I think what happens is it does take a toll on our mental health when we focus on all the negative in the world, whether it's work or politics or money, whatever it is, and it can be really draining. So I would just say, for one, just try to really remind yourself of all the great things you have in your life, and kind of just look at everything as a privilege. It's a privilege to be here. This is awesome. So that's helped me. Everyone's different.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like things that helped me would be, I am a huge advocate for, talking things out, talking things through. So whether you have like a trusted friend or partner, or if you like prefer counseling or therapy, I do that once a month, to just be able to talk through like your plans or the things that are getting at you. It's so helpful, to not bottle like feelings and the things that might be getting you down, like to just have somebody that you trust to talk it through is so helpful. I also think it's also helpful to have things to look forward to. So things that I like to do is I like to plan ahead, like whether it's writing music or like going on little trips or things like that, just to always have something like ahead of me that I can look forward to. That way, like if I'm feeling stressed or feeling down, like I always have something that I can look at my calendar on, of being like, hey, it's not all just work or things that aren't fun. Like I've got things going on that I can look forward to. Um, and then also, just as somebody who has recently been dealing with like a lot of grief, I think it's really important to give yourself time. So I think a lot of the time society like really pushes us to be like, you've got to go, 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 go. You have to do this now. You have to constantly be at 100%. And that's really impossible when you're also struggling with dealing with like a passing. So if anybody is dealing with something like that, or some type of severe like mental strain, definitely give yourself time and grace, and be gentle with yourself, because it's really important for you to give yourself the time that you need, because everybody's different, but giving you the acceptable amount of time to be in the right space to be able to heal from the things that have happened, is really, really important.
I appreciate that, Allie, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I'd say for me, I agree with both of those, and both of what they just said. I also uh like that's part of like what I do and what helps me as well. One kind of mindset or like philosophy kind of thing I have been getting into, and it's always like life is always just a learning process of doing things that see if something helps. If it doesn't, then try something new. But I have been liking Stoic philosophies and how people from like 2000 years ago went through hard times and seeing their perspective on the world at that time, and then trying to use what they have said and done in my own life. Be grateful, like Tristan said, and don't forget what blessings you do have.
Yeah, I think for me it's music, but I think finding either it can be a hobby or it can be some sort of career that you're able to enjoy, and not just enjoy but feel like you're making a difference with, or just find your own way to better yourself. I think a lot of people, with like how the world is now, they spend a lot of time focusing on that, um, and maybe like try to make that better in some way. But I think a lot of times it's easier to just try to focus on yourself a little bit more. Um, because if you just, if you find a hobby that you enjoy and spend a lot of time with it, and better yourself, I think you'll find that you've bettered yourself in other ways as well without even realizing it. Um, so I think just finding your, either can be a hobby or, like I said, anything like that that you can really focus on, I think is really important to keep yourself whole.
I appreciate all you guys sharing your thoughts on that, man. Especially at the beginning of the year, and it's kind of like, one of those quotes that I'll paraphrase, where it's like, and I don't know if it was Robin Williams or if it was attributed to him, but it was basically like, be kind to everybody you meet, because somebody's going through something that you don't know anything about. And yeah, I think just kind of setting the tone for the new year, man. It's awesome in conversations like this, where I'm able to get the whole band and be able to geek out not only about y'all's music, but hear about what helps people get through the day, and not only what helps get them through, but helps put them in a positive headspace. Because I think a lot of people could use some positivity right now. So I really appreciate you guys' time, man. I genuinely think you're sick. I'm grateful that I got on TikTok. I'm kind of like an old man and like a younger dude. Like, I feel like I've been going on 88 since I was 8 years old. Um,
Me too.
and yeah, and I'm getting ready to turn 38, which is wild to think about. My nephew just turned one of my nephews just turned 11, and the other one's about to celebrate his first birthday. My sister, who's in the Detroit area, and it's just like a trip. Like, I was talking to my brother, I'm like, dude, I remember my 11th birthday. I remember getting the Sugar Ray 1459 CD, and like,
Nice.
and now I'm like, dude, I'm like staring down the barrel of 40. Life is crazy. But I say all that to say, like, that's why I love having these conversations, and getting a chance to speak with different artists. And that's been one of the coolest things about doing this podcast. And again, I think one of the beautiful things about social media, to put a button on this, is you know it's still fun to go to record stores, and I'm so happy that vinyl, like, the younger generation is really getting into like the physical copies, and they want something tangible to hold and not just streaming. I digress, but that is one cool thing about social media and these algorithms, is it can put you on
Yeah.
to people that maybe would have taken longer, 20, 30 years ago, even 10 years ago, to be put onto. So I'm glad that I got on TikTok, and that the algorithm brought y'all my way, man. So I really appreciate the time. I want everybody to go listen to Toadhoney, the latest single. And if you're in the Michigan area, keep an eye on Forge the Sun with the shows they have coming up. And yeah, thank you so much, Allie, Tristan, Isaac, Barrett. I really appreciate you guys taking some of your time, especially on a Friday night, and a day before you got a show as we're recording this. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds in store with you. And I hope you guys keep making the music that you love to make, because music nerds like me are digging it, man. So I think you guys you got something special cooking, and I hope you keep it going.
Well, Mike, thanks for having
For
us.
having us.
I hope you
Thank
can
you.
Yeah,
come to a
thanks.
show or something. we've got, like Allie had mentioned, we got a big show scheduled over the summer. You might have to make a little road trip up to Grand Rapids and come rock out with us, man.
I would love to see y'all live, man. Especially, I still got a lot of family and friends in T-Town and in Northwest Ohio, and like I said, I got a sis up in Troy, man. So yeah, I would love to get up there and see a show. And also, if you guys, if you play Toledo, and I'll send you some messages too on TikTok or Instagram. But Frankie's is a great venue, but also the Ottawa Tavern. This dude Zach, he who runs that, he used to be Zach Jacobs. He used to be in one of my buddies' bands, Tropic Bombs. They're sick, by the way, too. I think you guys would really love them. They jam. And they got a new album coming out where like the vinyl opens up into a board game. My buddy
Oh
Ryan
yeah.
just went crazy with it. He loves that, being as creative as possible. But yeah, long way of me saying, yeah, I would love to get to a show, man. Especially with y'all's diverse catalog. That would be a lot of fun. So yeah, I might have to make a road trip this summer.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, let's make it happen, Mike. Thank you again.
Alrighty, dighty, there you have it. That was my conversation with Allie, Isaac, Barret, and Tristan of Forge the Sun out of Detroit, Michigan. Make sure you go follow these guys on TikTok at Forge the Sun. You can also follow them on Instagram at Forge the Sun Band. The links to all of their stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode, so you know what to do. Scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support my new friends in Forge the Sun. Once again, their latest single, Toadhoney, is out now, available wherever you get your music. And please go back and run up the numbers on their previous releases that we discussed in this conversation. Heart of the Sunrise, their live album at Zeros and One Studios, all of their other singles. If you're a fan of prog, alternative, rock, metal, they put it all in a blender for their own unique sound, and I dig it. They made a fan out of me when I discovered them on TikTok, and I'm really, really appreciative and grateful for them taking the time to do the podcast. So once again, I just want to say directly to Allie and Isaac and Barret and Tristan, thank you so much, you guys, for taking the time to do the show. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited for y'all, and I'm glad that this old man decided to join TikTok and that the algorithm brought you guys my way, man. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and hopefully I can get into a live show with you guys in the not so distant future, man. Even though I live in the music city, I'm always going to have the Motor City in my heart. I'm always going to have the Glass City in my heart. And anytime that I can show love and support for somebody from the Midwest, especially the Metro Detroit or Toledo area, man, it's awesome. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do the show. And once again, for the listeners out there, Forge the Sun has a show coming up on March 7th at Sanctuary Detroit. It's called Mosh for Mutts. They are going to be raising resources and funds to help local dog rescues. So the links to that will be in the podcast description as well for this episode. If you get a chance to go out to that, see some awesome live music and also support a great cause. So once again, Mosh for Mutts on 3/7 at Sanctuary Detroit, at Forge the Sun on TikTok, at Forge the Sun Band on Instagram. So that is going to be a wrap for this week's episode. If you did enjoy what you heard and you are new to March 4th, once again, welcome aboard the pirate ship. One thing that you can do to help this episode and this podcast get out to more people, and ultimately that's what I want, is to put more people onto bands like Forge the Sun. Conversations not just about music, but about mental health, perseverance, and moving forward. If you take the time to like and subscribe on whatever streaming platform you are listening to this episode on, that goes a long way in telling the algorithm that you dug it. Also, if you leave a rating and a review, comment on the show, if you interact on social media, but I know on Spotify and Apple in particular, the podcast is, there's like a 5-star rating system that you can rate it. So hopefully you wouldn't be like, it sucked and you give me 1 star. But if you would be so kind to take a couple of minutes to do that, it really helps, get this show out to more people, and it helps get more people on board with bands like Forge the Sun who are doing their thing. So But I hope that y'all have a great rest of the week. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Keep the faith and be kind to one another and be kind to yourselves. Courtesy of Forge the Sun, here is their latest single, Toadhoney. Peace.